That funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 in the Evil P Network, Rumble, and YouTube. Check us out, subscribe, type in iNewsWire on the old web and or Roy Blicker. You'll see my nice, smiling, shining face. Of course, we'll join the Mighty Met KMET as we usually do at the bottom of the hour. Lots of good stuff coming up. We'll Top 2 in June is working out to perfection. New polling numbers. We'll have John Fleshman and Colin Nolan with some of their video comments that they posted today on that, and more information coming up. But as we did, this is the 6th anniversary. 6 years ago today, March 19th, 2020. Gulag Gavin Newsom allowed the first statewide lockdown over COVID. Set in trend that's kept our schools closed for 2 years. In cahoots, cooperation, demands from the teachers who financed his campaign and financed the effort to thwart his recall in 2021 and has financed the biggest financial contributor to political candidates in California by far. Hundreds of millions of dollars. California teachers. And they have elected the asshole of the year, 75% legislature, absolutely stupid idiots, screwing us over with a bullet train, and we'll get to the bridge, another bridge to nowhere for animals, for crying out loud. Over $100 million a year, it's still ain't that. This is the tangled web mess we get into. And of course, it's all Trump's fault. Remember this picture on the beach? Yeah, look at Trump's Gestapo sticking guns in the faces of an innocent mom and her 2 daughters, minding their own business on the beach, trying to enjoy the day. Just kidding. This was California during the COVID, and those are United States of America citizens. The ones are Mayor, Moreno Valley Mayor, Ulysses Baby Jesus Cabrera, who said a little over a week ago, "We are the resistance to those who speak American." And this is what we've got for 6 years. And this clown is still governor. We re-elected him in 22. After he kept your kids out of school for 2 years. The lockdown was almost a year. Well, it went from March of 20 to January of 21. It was just basically a full lockdown of this state. And the immense damage it has done to the citizens, to the state, to our reputation, to people just saying the hell with it and getting the hell out of here. It's completely criminal. I want to take you back even further. January 29, 2020. When a plane load on a 747 chartered from Kalitta Airlines, yes, the Connie Kalitta, drag racer owner, and owner of Kalitta Airlines, picked up, 200-300 people from Wuhan, China, and they were supposed to come into Ontario Airport. Now, mind you, there's only 2 airports in California that are designed to take passengers from a massive disaster. They have the facilities all set up. And that's where this plane was supposed to land. We were still in the beginning, supposedly, a lot of us, most people, didn't know what the hell was going on, probably even Trump. And it's slated because we only got 2 places here in Oakland Airport, got facilities, got all the stuff to deal with that, to quarantine, to do all that. It's coming in. They say this plane's coming in from Wuhan. We're just hearing barely about the coronavirus, the China virus. Then all of a sudden it's getting diverted to March Air Force Base, which is only about 30 miles from Ontario and about 3 miles from where I'm broadcasting right now, in my native area. My first home was about a mile from March Field Air Force Base, Air Reserve Base. And I said, something is not right about this. And people said, oh, they got a hospital there. I said, they tore that down about 95. I said, you're driving over it. I said, most of the concrete they crushed and made road base on it, the base material they put under the pavement or concrete to stabilize the ground. I said, most of you are driving over what once was the base hospital. There is no base hospital. 0. Hasn't been there for 25 years. They have no facilities out there to handle these people. I knew something was terribly wrong. That was about 9 o'clock at night, about 8 o'clock, a couple hours after I'd gotten off the show that day. And I'm listening, I'm saying, this ain't right. Something is totally screwed. And we've lived the COVID con nightmare since then, and especially 6 years ago today, when Governor Gulag, Gavin Newsom, throwed the orders down to lock down the state. The next day, his evil twin, as I called him, Andrew Cuomo, who then was governor of New York. At least people of New York had sense enough to throw out Andrew Cuomo. We're stupid. We keep this ding-a-ling in here. And touched off a nightmare we're still living with. Not only the cancers that are exploding, the long COVID people are dealing with now, still today, and there's really nothing, a lot they can do. They try to make people more comfortable, but man, some people just can't even get out of bed. And people want to still fight for, or it's all Trump's fault. Or Trump did this when it was Gavin Newsom. Man, we got to get our act together. We'll get more of the fraud from the Shirley new Cam Higbee clips. We got some clips from John Flashman and Colin Nolan on top 2 in June to win, the plan I came up with a year ago when people said I was crazy. Now everybody's saying, the 6th grade educated ditch bank Okie from Edgemont might not have been so retarded after all. We'll get into that more on the rest of today's show. Exactly right. Man, we got a lot of challenges rolling our way. But we just rolled back in the memory banks of how we did that. This is Adam Housley. Oops. Here we go. For everyone that starts talking about the massive fraud here in California, many are talking about the state's $32 billion in COVID fraud. California has lost more than $100 billion in COVID fraud. Much of it left the state and the country. We're seeing more of that. That's all gone. How many years have we been funding this sort of idiocracy? Here's a new one from Cam Higbee on the election fraud. Here we go.
I'm just a reporter.
And that would be a California voter registration application. Notice the circled fields and their coordinated colors with the application sitting on the table.
Why are you guys filming this?
We're just interested in it. Are you with this thing here?
I'm an American citizen registered for vote under the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, well,
actually, the Bill of Rights.
Well, I was just wondering,
They fail to distinguish the U.S. Constitution from the Bill of Rights.
Are you registering people to vote, or are you voting?
And if you look closely, that is a cash transfer, $5 in exchange for somebody to register to vote. That is both illegal in California state and federally illegal.
So now we have Cam Higbee with his report, and he goes on about 20 minutes on this fraud. We have an absolute freaking disaster going on here. It permeates through everything. Not only are our officials corrupted, our police departments are corrupted, our court systems are corrupted, our DAs have been, they're not prosecuting this. Asaley's starting to work on some of it, the Department of Justice. Here's more from the James O'Keefe report in LA and some of these NGOs. Here we go.
Officers sitting nearby on Skid Row every single day don't know the California laws and plead ignorance. It begs the question, what are they even doing? And directly across the street from all of this is a homeless shelter called the Weingard Center, a, quote, comprehensive human services organization committed to removing barriers that keep people from housing. The 990 tax return shows the Weingard Center received $112 million through various grants in 2022, their latest public return, and that they have over $800 million in net assets. Weingard Center also pays their executives between $400,000 and $600,000 a year. Weingard has been missing their audit deadlines by an alarmingly large and increasing margin, 21 months late last year, with 8 negative findings. An article in LAist states that one of LA's biggest homeless service providers has been awarded over $100 million in taxpayer funds while failing to comply with federal audit mandates. The audits show multiple failures by Weingard Center to properly account for taxpayer money that were not remedied from one year to the next. One of Weingard's primary funding sources is LASA, the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. We couldn't help but wonder, what would people that work for LASA say about this voter fraud in Skid Row when directly asked? We attended this special commission meeting to find out.
Do you work for LASA?
Now you're going to be shocked, maybe not. We've suspected this stuff has been running around a long time. We've even seen it, but nobody's been able to document it, or our criminal justice system has not moved on it. It's about time they get off their dead asses.
We spoke to Kathy Linga, who says she's seen the people petitioning for money and teaches the prospective fraudster on how to use plausible deniability and to practice ignorance of the law as an excuse.
I think I want to get him some little cash right away. They were giving out cash for him to sign petitions.
Okay, so let me just have you meet Brian.
That'd be
if he
great.
can't help you, then go to the next, go to Skid Row and see if there's people out there with clipboards.
With clipboards and see if they would give him the cash for the petition.
Yes.
And do you think that's okay? I don't want him to get in trouble though. Do you think it's okay for him to sign?
What, I mean,
Do you think that's legal?
we don't even, if they See, they said ignorance is no excuse for the laws. But a lot of times I have to say I didn't know. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I had no idea. They give them pre-described words, and they're making hundreds of millions of freaking dollars that your U.S. government is taking from you at the point of a gun, taking the money out of your pocket and your family's future and giving it to pieces of trash like this. Man, when does it ever stop? I'm telling you, it's like unbelievable. Here's more from the Nick Shirley tape with Amy Reichert from down in San Diego. Here we go.
So I've come across many of these. Some of these are on the third story of an apartment complex. It's only one bedroom, and yet the capacity is for 8 kids.
So here we go with the child care fraud, hospice fraud, voter integrity fraud, and they don't want us to have voter ID. Holy cow.
We just arrived at the daycare. We have 2 kids out here. I don't know if they're members of the daycare. There's no oversight right here. Can we talk to your teacher? Is your teacher there? So this is the first child we've ever encountered at one of these daycares. There's 2 kids out here right now, and we're gonna see if we can talk to the
Licensee. It is, according to this paperwork, Shukri Jama.
Can we talk to the adult?
He is not here.
Not here.
Yeah.
So you guys all by yourself?
Yeah.
They finally found 2 kids and no adults in sight. This is what you're paying for. Who knows what they're doing? We can all speculate. Are they high on weed, crack, meth, down at the strip club, spending your money? This, man, there's enough material to go on here for weeks. Suzette Valadares, state senator, and state assemblyman Josh Hoover, and the few Republicans left, the token ones left in our state legislature, have thwarted so far another violent criminal being released. Here we go.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I am Assemblyman Josh Hoover, representing the 7th Assembly District here in Sacramento County. We are here today for 2 reasons. The first and most immediate reason is to stop the release of Gregory Vogelsang back into our community. And we will encourage everyone at the end of this hearing to attend this parole hearing in the building behind us and oppose his release. Gregory is someone, that hearing, by the way, is at 9 a.m. Gregory is someone who was convicted of dozens of counts of child molestation, of kidnapping against 5 young boys in Citrus Heights, which is a community that I represent. And he is not someone that should be released back into our community.
The fact that Josh Hoover has to say that is absolutely stunning. Someone who has sexually abused young little boys probably multiple times in horrendous ways, and we're even thinking of letting him out. He shouldn't. My world, I like Anna Polina Luna and they would get the death penalty. We don't need human debris like that running across our state or our country or anywhere. It's ridiculous. So they've delayed after the hearing. Supposedly they delayed it. The people up there, led by Josh Hoover, have thwarted it so far, but we have to keep the pressure on. In no uncertain terms. Switching to the California governor's race, we'll get to the top 2 to win in June in a minute. This is the spy, the Chinese spy, Eric Swalwell, who's running for governor and current congressman from California, gets asked a question, and this may be what did Kamala Harris on The View when they ask her, is there anything you would do different from Joe Biden? And she said, no. Here's Eric Swalwell.
What do you think was a misstep of Governor Newsom?
Yeah, well, I don't accept the premise that there is missteps. I think he's put some down payments, or for me, as a sports guy, everything's a sports analogy. I think he's gotten us pretty far down the field.
Oh, he's not done nothing wrong. Unbelievable. He didn't learn a lick. That's why I'm saying we got to keep Swalwell in the deal. He's one of the icky 8 that will get us to the top 2 in June, possibly. If we, the Republicans, do this right. Got to split the vote evenly between Steve and Chad and hold ding-dongs like this. And again, Gavin Newsom, we don't even have to go through the litany. We just said we're on the 6-year anniversary of him being the first state to lock us down under the COVID con. Vaya caramba. John Flashman on Flash Report, John Flashman, on his So Does It Matter page, go to sodoesitmatter.com, reveals a wide-open California governor's race defined by fragmentation, not momentum. He says new polling numbers. The California governor's race is still wide open. Let's get some of John's comments. You can even get in more depth on So Does It Matter. Hopefully, here we go. Why isn't John playing? So, for some reason, John's voice is not coming over. Anyway, we'll see if we can clear that up. But it's absolutely stunning of some of the antiquated, felonious stuff that comes across our airways. And it will be absolutely stunning. Here's some of the stats that he put up on his website from the UC Berkeley poll. And it's pretty damning. Look at from the standpoint of reducing the cost of living. Well, Steve and Chad voters are about 34%. Swalwell to Villaraigosa go to 41 to 58. They're the ones that caused this stuff. Cutting waste, fraud, and political corruption, 50%, 52 of Chad and Steve voters. Look at 8%, 12%, 11, 13, 8, 14%. From Swalwell to Porter to Steyer to Baccaria to Villaraigosa. It shows you Democrats do not care about waste, fraud, and political corruption because they are benefiting from it. Vagrancy, which I was surprised, only 7% of Steve and Chad voters. All of the ones in the teens to 20% for Mahon. Democrats seem to be higher on the homeless because they're probably more affected by it. Building more affordable housing, didn't even register for the Republicans, is 20%. mainly for all the Democrats. So that's where they are going. Education, again, not much in the Republicans, which kind of surprises me. More in the Democrats, but maybe because their kids are suffering more. Balancing the budget actually was a little bit of that, but only 15 and 12% of Bianco voters and Hilton voters. That was very surprising that nobody's concerned about that. Cutting taxes was big. Hilton and Bianco voters, hardly any for the Democrats. Lowering gasoline prices again. That was a shocker, even 20% of that. All in single digits for the Democratic candidates and more. It would have been traditionally more Democrats would have been on the low income, where that all these ones that they're not concerned about are the ones that are costing them the most money. It's really incredulous. Of why this doesn't resonate. But we'll see if we can figure it out. Here's what Colin Nolan had to say. He was talking about it too, the dean of Southern California political reporters, as they say. Hopefully, here we go.
And the millions of registered Democrats in this very blue state. There are so many Democrats running for governor that they're splitting up the vote, and that could result in the two leading Republicans finishing 1 and 2 in June, meaning they would go on, and only them, on to the November runoff. Now, here's the poll of the UC Berkeley Center for Governmental Studies and LA Times. Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco. Hilton, the former Fox News host. Chad Bianco, the Riverside County Sheriff, 1 and 2, followed by 8 Democrats. Eric Swalwell, the Democratic congressman from the Bay Area. Katie Porter of Orange County, former Congresswoman. Tom Steyer, the billionaire out of the Bay Area, in double digits. They are in the running. Then's the second-tier candidates, former HHS Secretary Javier Becerra at 5%, former Controller at 1%, Tony Thurmond, in order to show the candidates how poorly they're doing and try to get a few of them at least to drop out in order to solidify the vote for one of the leading contenders. Here's Robin Swanson of the Democratic Party.
I think Chair Hicks has said it best, that he wants people to really do an honest assessment of their path to victory and how viable their path is. And as a result, he has commissioned a poll by Aviterus Research. They're a Los Angeles.
If Swanson thinks that she's going to convince the Democratic candidates from her pretty face to get out, good luck with that. Shows that Hicks, the Swanson chick, they have no power in the Democratic Party. And we're going to commission a poll and we're going to do that. I could just see Big Daddy Jesse Unruh coming in and saying, oh, we're going to commission a poll. He would be saying, you know, you out. We're going to get behind this candidate. And if you don't line up, we will crush you. You could not get elected sewer cleaning commissioner anywhere in the world. We will chase you down to Vermont if you try to run somewhere. Little Miss Yo, we're going to commission a poll. Oh, I'm sure Villaraigosa is quaking in his boots. Tony Thurmond's rushing down to the secretary, or making an announcement. Some of this stuff is just absolutely off the charts. Stupidity on that. But you know, when you take those numbers that Flashman put up, the only the only two candidates that are getting 50% on any issue, and that is Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco. And it's on cutting waste, fraud, and political corruption. Cost of living gets it too. I mean, a couple of them, Steyer and that in Villaraigosa, which is the only other one that gets cost of living, he's only drawing what? 4% of the vote. But you look at this overall. Steve and Chad are on top of most of the issues that Californians are concerned about. So this is another reason why I think top two in June has a big chance to be very successful. Now, of course, with this new poll out, the Paul Mitchell deal of R versus R is at 22%. He's got 75%. But look at that. Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco are still 1 and 2 as a probability of making the top two. And the only one's over 50%. Swalwell's still stuck at 49. Katie Porter's in the 30s, Steyer, and then Baccaria, Matt Mahon, Tony Thurman, Villaraigosa, Betty Yee are not even registering. So based on this chart, we need to prop up Chad Bianco a little bit to even out the top two strategy. You know, and then that R&R is going to become 111% on June 2nd. But this is what we got to do. And for the ones that are voting for Steve and Chad, that's fine. Invoke Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment, thou shalt not criticize a fellow Republican. And we're going to get to the point. If this thing plays out as it is, and we play our cards right, and those on the strategy side, that's why I'm holding my vote maybe to the last day. Whoever I think needs it most versus Steve and Chad to even them out. And then hopefully the other icky 8 come in 3 through 10, and it's going to be Steve and Chad. You know, I came up with this a year ago, and everybody laughed at me. Since the first of the year, they were thinking, you know, maybe the ditch bank Okie ain't as retarded as we think. Now, everyone in California politics, insiders, from right, left, center, up, down, in between, are saying, you know, the dude out there from the hinterlands in the IE maybe was onto something. This is going to be a very, very, very interesting election cycle. As people dig up all the stuff, and we'll switch to the Cesar Chavez topic, because now it seems, I think, Macedo, the one of the very few Republicans in our Cal legislators, said, well, why don't we change March 31st into Farm Workers' Day, which seems to be happening. But this post was put up from Gavin Newsom back just before, as he's running for governor. Cesar Chavez plus Dolores Huerta did not risk their lives so that a man who calls Mexicans rapist criminals could become president. As they say, this didn't age very well. So did Dolores Huerta put her life at risk for a man who actually raped her and fathered 2 of her children that she shipped off to somebody else and abused 13-year-old girls and everything else. But it's that mean Donald Trump, you know, he did all of it. Not only is he mischaracterizing what Trump said, but when rubber hits the road, it goes to show you the lies, deceit, and disingenuous, just like the fraud deal. When Oz came out here and said, hey, look at all this hospice fraud going on in L.A. And it was Newsom and Rob Bonner and all that. Oh, racist. He's picking on the Armenians and the Russians. And he's a racist. Enduring racism. Now they're posting, with it, like when O'Keefe and Higby and everyone else. Oh, well, we're going to look into the fraud. We don't do. No children's fraud. No election fraud. No fraud. No $100 billion that we gave away of your money in unemployment fraud. Oh, we're going to look into that. Yeah, right. The investigators are going to investigate themselves for the crimes they committed. They really believe we're that stupid. And we have been. For many years.
40 seconds.
And it's just a crying shame, as they say, that we continue to tolerate this mess. As Jesse said, we'll be on with the Mighty Met KMET, 1490 in a few seconds. Hopefully, we'll have Susan Shelley on. A day late, but not a dollar short. And we'll get into her columns and what she thinks of the 6-year anniversary of the COVID lockdowns and maybe anything else. Who knows?
5 seconds. Here we go. And Susan's on the line.
Your free phone app today. IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's some funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday. Live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met, 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the aforementioned AM band. Join your vast video audience on the WAPI Network, YouTube. Type in IE Newswire, Roy Bleckert, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Or check us out on the archives, and you'll see everything we've been talking about. The fraud investigations keep rolling in. The disastrous tweet 10 years ago plus, Gavin Newsom did, referring to Cesar Chavez, Dolores Herder, and Trump. The top 2 in June to win is even getting more likely each and every day, even as the UC Berkeley poll has come out. But, as we usually do on a Wednesday, but we're doing it on Thursday, we have the famed editorial writer, columnist for the Press Enterprise, San Bernardino Sun, Inland Daily Bulletin, Redlands Daily Facts, more important to me, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley. Welcome to IE Newswire with Roy.
Thank you, Roy. Great to be with you.
So, it's 6 years ago today. Gavin Newsom ordered the first statewide lockdown over the COVID con, kept the schools closed for 2 years, created unmitigated disasters, not only in the lives of Californians, but worldwide. And the former Fox reporter Adam Housley's even reporting, and he was the first one to break it on the unemployment fraud. He says $32 billion isn't even close. He said it's over $100 billion that Gavin Newsom gave away just in unemployment fraud. But what's your reflections going back over 6 years on the COVID con lockdowns beginning, Susan Shelley?
Right at the very beginning, I saw some research and some people who were writing, one scientist and professor at Stanford, and others who were saying right at the beginning that it wasn't nearly as fatal as these scare tactics were saying. And there were others who were saying that there were treatments, steroids and other things that could limit the damage from COVID. And all of these people were canceled. And then Henry Aaron, very early on, I think it was in April, Henry Aaron was trotted out to show the black community that there was nothing to be afraid of in this vaccination. I guess that was the next year. And shortly thereafter passed away. And nobody thought it was odd. Nobody asked for an investigation. I think Robert Kennedy said something, and then he was canceled over it. And all from the very beginning and all the way through the vaccination period, the whole thing had an anti-factual basis. It was like if you had facts that you wanted to talk about, you were the enemy of the people. It's one of the most frightening things I've ever seen, I think, in U.S. history, honestly. If you look back, I don't know what's more frightening than having everyone's civil liberties just canceled for supposedly a health reason, and if you ask any questions, you're the enemy. You're causing doubt in science. That was absolutely unbelievable that happened in the United States of America and everywhere else. Unbelievable.
Another thing that struck me, and I put it up today on iNewsWire, the graphic those watching the video can see of that, hardly a peep, nothing that I've seen across is even mentioning that this is a 6-year anniversary of this piece of trash that's on my screen right now that locked down California, and then, as I said, his evil twin, Andrew Cuomo at the time, the next day locked down New York, and then, as they say, the race was on. But nobody's like, and I try to put up, like the 9/11 Never Forget, it seems like everybody's like, push this aside or not forgetting about it. This is why we're living what we are today with the, with the high fuel prices and everything else that's going on in California. Sometimes this stuff amazes me, Susan, but what say you?
You're absolutely right. It's why we have all this inflation. It's why we had all this learning loss in the schools, and why we have this enormous budget that they don't want to go back to the pre-COVID spending, want to just continue it. It's a mess. And it's an object lesson in the importance of limited government, because nothing they did made this pandemic any better. And if you really want to investigate what caused the thing in the first place, that's the government too. So it's very, it's a chapter in history that is hard to believe when you're living through it. And for everyone who thinks, oh, it couldn't have been the government, nobody did anything wrong, I give you the pardon of Anthony Fauci, going all the way back for 10 years for whatever he may have done. Why does the hero of the pandemic need a pardon for 10 years of whatever he did? And when you think about the answer to that question, then you have the answer to the whole thing. It was a terrible, terrible episode in history.
1,000%. You mentioned the budgets, the California state budget, the federal government budget have went up 50%. I mean, we were under $250 billion just before COVID. Now we're at $350 and going. We were around $4 billion on our federal budget. Now we're over $6.5 billion. And we're carrying on. Government power outreach, depleting your money, putting it in their control, which means control over your life. We've went a 50% government more control than we had 6 years ago when this thing started, Susan.
That is true. And I remember when this thing started, I got a call or an email perhaps from a reader in the newspapers, and he was in his house. He was a senior citizen. He needed to get groceries. He didn't know what to do because the first thing that Gavin Newsom did was tell everyone who was over a certain age not to leave the house. And he called me because he didn't know who to call. And I didn't know who to call. But I called one of the supermarkets, and I said, you deliver? Is there something you could do? Because it was before all these DoorDash-type services popped up in the middle of the pandemic to make sure everybody didn't starve. You know, one of the things that's interesting about this whole experience is that if we hadn't had widespread use of cell phones, they could never have done this lockdown. They could never have done it. If you didn't have the ability to have basically computers and geolocation in everybody's hand, we all would have starved. And they couldn't possibly have pulled off this policy. They would have had to do something more rational, something more along the lines of the Great Barrington Declaration, where you were not locking down and you were allowing people to go about their business if they were healthy. So this is it's very troubling. I mean, only the comedians really had it right. And they said things like, you know, you don't even know you have this unless you have a test. It's just, everybody is so gullible, and we're so frightened, and the government was deliberately frightening them, and the media was deliberately frightening them. And I called it out in my column pretty early. And, you know, there's no great glory in being right about it, but I was right about it. And it was a psychological operation on this country that should never have been allowed. The punchline to the whole thing, though, is that all the people who were canceled for objecting to it are now in the Trump administration. So you've got Dr. Jay Bhattacharya and Robert Kennedy and all these different people at different levels in the National Institutes of Health, the CDC, and they out of the university jobs and into the government to make sure this never happens again.
Just one more thought before we get to your columns on this. UC Berkeley just came out with a poll again. Steve and Chad are on the top two. It's increasingly getting to the point, and more people are talking about it, where they might be the top two coming out of this, especially if the AK8 keeps splitting the vote up and don't get out like they're doing. And I don't see them having the incentive or the Democratic Party of having the gravitas they once did to facilitate that. This is what gives us hope. If we play our strategy right, we can start turning this stuff up in California. We're given a golden opportunity. The strategy to do this and the tools to do it are no. I couldn't have lined this any better when I came up with it a year ago. That it's working out. It's working out even better than I thought. But in the next 3 months, we need to come together and do this. If we get those two in the top two, then like we've discussed it before on down ballots, but I think that should be the number one priority in the next 3 months in California, is doing that. If we can get that accomplished, we got a shot at turning this around, I believe, Susan.
It's just so hard to know how to do it. You know, sometimes negative attention or attack ads help in an inadvertent way because they raise the name ID of the person being attacked. So you can't even say with absolute certainty that having one candidate attack the other is a bad thing, because it might be raising the profile of both of them. It's hard to know. And it's hard for the Democrats to know what to do to get the outcome they want. You know, they're all so uninspiring. It's so interesting. They've all advanced their careers to such a great degree with no public support at all. They have no public support. And yet they've been elected and elected and elected. It's the absolute picture of a political machine. And, you know, there are sub-machines within the machine, and now they're at war with each other, and that's why no one would get out. And so they're all fighting for control of the party and the money and the state and the power. And it's just hard to predict.
And again, the Swalwell, the spy, didn't learn anything from the Kamala Harris. Remember the question from The View? Did anything you would have done different than Joe Biden? And she said no. And
yes.
Swalwell got the same question about Gavin Newsom, and he said the same thing. I'm thinking this is great. I mean, I think if there's one thing that killed Kamala Harris's campaign, it was that. And they're playing right into it. It's absolutely stunning. But I want to get into your column. The first one, the Medi-Cal money pit. I can't wait for this one, Susan Shelley.
Oh, did you know that there are 14.5 million California residents on Medi-Cal, the safety net health care insurance for low-income people. That is more than one-third of the state is low-income qualifying for Medi-Cal. And 1.7 million of those people who are enrolled have what the government calls unsatisfactory immigration status. Now, that's from the Legislative Analyst's Office. So that's from October. It could even be higher now. But that is a staggering number. And how are we paying for it? Because supposedly you can't use federal dollars to pay for full-scope Medi-Cal for illegal immigrants. It's not legal to do that. So California has to pay it on its own in a parallel program, and that's what it's doing. But where's it getting the money to pay for it? Well, it turns out that they are using a loophole in the federal law to draw down more federal dollars than they're entitled to. And the way they do it is through this tax scheme. So, for example, the state taxes the managed care organizations. Managed care organizations pay the tax to the state. The state gives the money back to them. And when the state gives the money back to them, that's a Medi-Cal expense, and the government can say to the federal government, you owe us 50% or more of what we just paid. So it's just this complete swindle. It's like three-card Monte. You can watch it and watch and say, what just happened? Well, what happened is California's got somewhere between $13 and $19 billion a year from the federal government that it's not entitled to have. And the federal government is tightening up the rules. And this is why you keep hearing from California politicians, oh, the Trump administration is cutting Medi-Cal. No, they're not. They're cutting California's scam to get more federal dollars to pay for Medi-Cal for illegal immigrants. That's what's going on.
So basically what you're saying is the thieves are stealing amongst the thieves. The thieves of the California government are stealing from the thieves of the federal government who are stealing, and then the cities and the counties. And I mean, again, it's getting down to the point, they said like 20% fraud. I said it's got to be at least a third. I'm thinking it's over 50% of every dollar we're giving to any government agencies getting tossed in fraudulent, just some sort of sketchy program of some kind. Another bridge to nowhere in L.A., $100 million for animals to cross over that isn't even done, over budget, and will probably cause another mass fire that's going to destroy who knows how many more properties of that from some stupid eco-freak that's going yaddling about this or that and the other. We've completely lost our minds sometimes, I think, Susan.
Oh, that's absolutely true. Do you remember the mountain lion that was photographed in Griffith Park in front of the Hollywood sign? Remember that picture? Okay, that's what did this. The mountain lions in the Santa Monica Mountains are supposedly not genetically diverse enough, and mountain lions need a lot of territory. So the people who adore the mountain lions are very dangerous, by the way, and this is a residential neighborhood. They always photograph the side where you don't see the houses, but it's Agoura Hills. They are inviting mountain lions to come to Agoura Hills and eat toddlers and pets, and then have a party with the other mountain lions so that they're more genetically diverse. This is a terrible idea based on people who are, oh, look how cute the mountain lion cubs are, or the mountain lion kittens. They're so adorable. Yes, they're adorable, but they're very dangerous. It's a residential neighborhood. Nonetheless, this was supposed to be built with philanthropy funds. It was going to be privately funded, and somewhere along the line in one of the trailer bills, they didn't have enough money to do it, so in one of the trailer bills, Gavin Newsom put money in for them, and now it's, of course, never enough, because once you put government money in, then everybody wants a piece of it, and everything gets more expensive, and that's where they are. But this is just a completely crazy project that is going to help mountain lions come into Agoura Hills and eat toddlers. I've been on this for quite a while. I live in this area, and it's just, I think, one of the worst ideas I've ever seen.
It's like you couldn't have drawn it up any better that they're working against us at every turn. It seems like every time we turn around, It's like it's just like thieves. They're pointing a gun at us again, or at least the people of LA, and they're doing this everywhere. LA is just an example of this. Your other column, LA to raise property tax bill because criminals are stealing the copper wire, that they're not out there doing their jobs out there putting these guys in jail and whatever to keep them from doing it. This is absolutely bananas, Susan.
Oh, this is bananas. And it's not just L.A., but this particular tax will be just in the city of L.A. You might remember that there was a law that was passed last year. I think it was signed into law last year that was going to crack down on these recycling firms that buy the copper and make them do a lot of paperwork and a lot of compliance work. Well, we see how well that worked. Everything is still being stolen. It's being stolen from underground vaults, from AT&T wires. It's being stolen from city light posts. Copper wire is being stolen all over the place, and they can't possibly keep up with it. It's like a Roadrunner Coyote cartoon to chase after these vandals and thieves who are doing this. So what does L.A. do? They decide we need to charge homeowners and businesses and any property owner in the city more money for streetlights, and that's what they're doing. Now, this is a Proposition 218 matter. It's not a tax that goes on the ballot. It's a fee for streetlight repair and maintenance. And all you get on this, you do get a right to vote, but not yes or no on the tax. You can protest or not protest. And if 50% or more of the people who receive the ballot protest, then it can't be collected. That's in Prop 218. That's your taxpayer protection. In a city the size of Los Angeles, that means they're going to send out about 600,000 ballots. 300,000 of them will have to come back with a no vote on them in order to stop this. So that's, as a practical matter, not going to happen. Sometimes in small cities, you can knock on doors and you can get 50% to fight one of these fees. But this one's going to go through, and then all the property tax bills are going to go up. A single-family home on a quarter acre is going to be assessed about $148 and change per year. It's going to go up every year with inflation. They'll do an inflation adjustment on it. And some of the retail businesses, it could be $900, $1,000, $1,500.
Did we lose Susan? Seems like we lost Susan's feed on there. No, this stuff is absolutely bananas. It's crazy.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. Now you finally got you. Yeah, you
Okay.
went blank for a minute there on that. But no, this stuff is
Sorry.
absolutely crazy. Again, we're paying more for public safety, for cops and everything, and courts and everything else to do that. Now they're stealing us blind. Now they're going to charge us again for doing the job that they should have been doing in the first place. And they're going to charge us more. You're saying it's in LA. Once LA gets this done, I can guarantee you the other 400 cities in California and the county, the 58 counties, are going to be right on top of this. I can almost guarantee you this, Susan.
I think so. And it's because they don't want to crack down on crime. If you don't stop the thieves from stealing the copper wire by arresting them and locking them up and making it some sort of organized crime,
I don't know why that seems to be messing up.
I think we lost Susan again, so we're getting into the cell hell mode.
Hello?
Again. Yeah, there you go on that. We're doing that. We got about a minute left. Tell them why they should join HJTA. Go.
Well, the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association has a big year coming up. We're going to have an initiative in November.
And we didn't even get that one in. Oh, heck. But anyway, join Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. It's only $15 a year. They're the only ones there fighting to keep you from the new copper wire tax. This stuff is absolutely freaking crazy. How do we get... we've done it to ourselves. Hopefully, we're getting enough sharps, or enough of us are getting enough sharps
I think I got her.
to turn this thing around. That UC Berkeley poll coming in is exactly as I'm saying, what we're doing. Maybe people are finally getting it. The spy Swalwell, like we said, inadvertently, or answering the question, the same as the Kamala Harris question. That what Sonny from The View gave Kamala Harris. Well, what would you do different? Would you do anything different than Joe Biden? You as vice president? And she looked with that deer in the headlights look and said, no. Swalwell did the same thing with Gavin Newsom. The CBS reporter asked, well, would you do anything different than Gavin Newsom has done? Well, no. I think he's doing a great job. $100 billion if Adam Housley's right, and he's probably low. In unemployment fraud. Look at it like that, like Susan said. The bridge to nowhere of Animal Crossing. $114 million. It still ain't done. It's what? $25 billion over budget. And the Looney Tune goofball eco-freak that got this thing done says, well, that's all right. It's only $25 million. Heck, we need to spend more. If it isn't double in cost, well, it wasn't worth doing. It's basically what she said. Holy freaking cow. Maybe we'll get some sharps going on, like John Flashman wrote. Hopefully we'll get his video. I don't know why it was playing, but I don't know. I couldn't get the voice to come through. But yeah, the governor's race is wide open. He's 100%, 111% correct on that. And we got to be sharp enough to grab the bull by the horns and run the strategy correctly. Get Steve and Chad in on the top two. And that's going to do all the down ticket ones, and that's going to take races. That'll even thwart Prop 50. A lot of these, they thought they were going to pick up 5 seats. Well, if Steve and Chad are in, that's the low propensity Democratic left voters and going to be less likely to show up. It's going to put more races from congressional races to state assembly seats, which we need to pick up 7 in the assembly and 4 in the Senate, just to knock down below the 2/3 that they can override a veto. That's even more important. If we get Steve and Chad in, then the next thing on the state, we got to pick up 7 and 4. Just so they can't override any veto that Governor Steve and Chad might do. So it's not over, but that's going to set the deck chairs even harder that we can attain that or even more. Our down ballot races, local races, county supervisor, school board, sewer cleaning commissioner, city council, water boards. Those are important. Nobody pays attention. It's County Board of Education. Nobody pays attention to that. Your college boards. All those judges. Maybe even the most important and the least paid attention to. They're running a tax increase. In Riverside, we're going to have Jason Hunter hopefully on tomorrow. Talk about that. They're screwing with the ballot language again. It just goes to show they hate us. All a government sees when they see you walk up is dollar signs. And they're going to point a gun at you and take that. That's what it's boiled down to. It's us against them. We got a chance to correct it. We got a chance to start turning this ship around before we sink the Titanic, which is California. That's gonna bankrupt the rest of these 48 states. 49. 57 if you want to take what Obama said. It's going to have to be all hands on deck. We got a shot. California can turn this whole thing around. We better grab the bull by the horns while we got the opportunity. Seize the moment. Hello for today. As we usually say at this time, it's mandatory you're back here 23 hours wide for the best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya!
Have a great night. Everything was going so well.
Yes, doing that. Today was the first. At least everything I fired, nothing seemed to be going other than the annoyance things. But at least all the pictures and everything, I didn't have to go through all the settings again today. So.
Oh, that's good.
Maybe we're turning a corner.
I'm gonna believe that.
Still got to figure out though on Monday why this, like why the Facebook thing's taking me 37 steps and this other. Now the scene stuff seems to be settled down. Knock on wood.
Huh.
I don't know.
That's weird.
They haven't been jumping around the last 2 days, so.
Okay. All right. I'll stop by Monday.
You got it.
All right. Bye.